Are there any nominations?
Hi, folks. So I'm Ian Sullivan. I'm the other committee clerk. What I can suggest, as I have not a lot more experience than Christine in doing the elections here, but what I can suggest is just do it for the meeting today, because you can always, especially if you just want to be a vice chair, just volunteer to be vice chair. It's also, there is no massive rules or anything you have to do. You just have to follow through the agenda, and Christine is always there to answer any questions. And yeah, but we can't proceed with the meeting until we have a chair and a vice chair. So just, put yourselves forward.
I'm a little, did we not have a chair and a vice chair already? Or is this a new term?
Yeah, so technically this is kind of a new year of committee meetings, and the councillors did choose new committees. So Councillor Glenn, who was the previous chair, as you know, is no longer a part of the committee. We have Councillor Stephen is still a part of the Heritage Programs Committee, and then Councillor Chinani has joined as well. So Councillor Glenn, who was the previous chair, is no longer a part of the committee. But if anybody is interested in being a chair for just this meeting in particular, I can definitely help assist with any questions you may have going through the meeting in sharing it.
I can do it for this meeting if nobody wants to, and then next meeting we can see who wants to, if anybody actually wants to do it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chinani. And do we have a seconder for Councillor Chinani chairing this meeting? Sherry, thank you, Sherry. Okay. And then Ian, I might just look to you. Should we vote to elect a vice chair for this meeting if we just have kind of a temporary chair at the moment?
Yes, so it is best practice to do both chair and vice chair, just in case the chair needs to pass it off to the vice chair.
Okay, so I will look now for a nomination for the position of vice chair.
I could do that. Self-nominate.
Okay, thanks, Laura. And could we have a seconder for Laura as vice chair? Okay, Paul, thank you, Paul. Okay, so I'll now turn the meeting over to you, Mr. Chair, to get this going. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks. So I guess I'll call the meeting to order at what time is it? 5:33. So I guess, can we get an approval of the agenda? I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Sherry, seconded by Laura. All in favor? And so for confirmation of the minutes, was anybody here from the last time that can move it? Is this one of those? Jeffrey, you were here before?
Yeah, I scanned the reports. I've got I'm not very familiar with these council approaches. Do you have matters arising from the minutes? I mean, I can confirm the minutes.
Well, I think usually we need somebody that was at the meeting. Is that correct, Christine?
Yes, and I believe, sorry, I'm just playing. Jeffrey, you were at the previous meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so you can move it. And can I get a seconder? Is there any discussion? Any changes? No? All in favor? Passes. Okay, is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing as none, so I guess we'll move on to delegations. I think we had an amendment, an addendum Yes,
Through
Jeffrey.
you. Oh,
Can
sorry.
I'm sorry, could I ask a question, please? Do you not have matters arising from the minutes? I mean, I believe that they can confirm that this happened, but is there an opportunity to ask questions and make points about in other words, matters arising from the meeting? Or do we not do that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, no, we would not do that here.
But if there's things on these minutes that I'd like information on, how do I do that?
So you could contact me and I could connect you with the appropriate staff if you thought that there was an error in the minutes.
No, I don't think there's an error. There's a matter arising that I'd
Okay,
like
so
that there were certain things that were said that would be done. And I just want to ask the person that said this a couple of questions. Have they been done? Yes or no? When can I do that?
Absolutely. So you could contact me, or I can contact you after the meeting, and then I can connect you with the appropriate staff to respond to that question.
It does, but I'm not too happy with it. But anyway.
Okay. So, there was an addendum, I think I saw. And there's going to be, is it delegations?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the addendum had the addition of 2 briefings.
Okay, 2 briefings.
So not delegations in the next section.
Okay, so are there any delegations? It says Kingston Heritage Programs Committee meeting. Under that, is that?
So no, through you,
That's
Mr.
just the
Chair.
header for this thing. Okay, so there's no delegations. I guess we'll move on to briefings then. Oh,
boy.
Paul, did you have something you wanted to?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I did. Following up on Jeffrey, he may have a specific question germane to himself only, but on the other hand, he may have a question that would be of interest to the entire committee. How do we go about disseminating Jeffrey's question and the committee clerk's answer to the entire committee? If it's, I'm really confused about how this process is working.
I think
there may be others who are very familiar with this, but.
Yep, so that's an excellent question. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So the confirmation of the minutes is just to that part of the agenda is strictly for whether or not the official record of the previous meeting is correct as printed. If you have matters that would be, quote, arising from the minutes, you can bring those up other business, which is at the very bottom of the agenda. That is where you can ask additional questions within the mandate of the committee. It shouldn't create large conversations, but that is where, for example, if you had a question that you would like follow up on, or let staff know that you would like follow up on that is the appropriate place to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry, you had a question?
Yeah, that was pretty well what I was asking about as well. Jeffrey has some issues, and I think it would benefit the entire committee to know what they are and what the response would be. So thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to briefings. So the first briefing, I don't have it open here. Can you tell me what it is, Christine? I can't find the addendum right now.
Yes, so the first briefing will be through you, Mr. Chair, the first briefing will be from Melanie Banks, and that will be to introduce the Update Kingston commemoration policy.
Okay.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So we're just going to be giving some brief updates on the reports that we have coming today. They're both information reports. So I'm going to be going over information report HPC-24-001. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the commemoration strategy and policy, which I've already discussed in our first inaugural meeting, just to reintroduce back to the committee. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the Kingston commemoration strategy is to establish clear, consistent, and consolidated protocols and decision-making processes as an effective means to work with and respond to local community members with the intention of fostering a multifaceted dialogue on people, places, events, and ideas with significance to Kingston's heritage through commemorative forums. This can include to introduce a cohesive and overall vision, to outline a transparent, streamlined decision-making framework for commemoration proposals, to clarify the roles and responsibilities for the management of commemorative collections, and to respond to community needs. Our commemorations are classified into 3 different categories. The first category, Category A, is a pretty straightforward process, very low resource usage required, and usually short approval times. This can include such things as civic awards, tree and bench dedications, council motions such as congratulations, recognition, sympathy, and condolences. The mayoral portrait collection is included in this, as well as third-party displays and exhibitions on city property. The next category, Category B, requires a medium amount of processing time and resources. This can include displays and exhibitions in partnership with the city on city property, such as banners, transit ads, etc. This also includes tours, festivals and ceremonies, proclamations, flag raisings, and external illuminations of City Hall or Springer Market Square. The third and final category is the most involved process. It requires a little bit more time and resources and usually is interdepartmental. Those can include the naming of corporate assets, Kingston Remembers plaques, civic dressing or street naming, as well as any plaques and public art and one-time city-led festivals and events. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to draw the committee's attention to a few things that I think would be of interest to them from this report. This year, we did see a growth in the number of commemorations we received. So if you're looking at the number from last year, in 2022, we saw 253 commemorations. Comparatively to this year, we had 316. A lot of that has to do with new processes that were brought forward prior to 2022 for just such as illumination requests, proclamation requests, and some of the work that the EDI committee is doing to encourage the community to use those opportunities to celebrate a diversity of events. Next slide, please. Something else that I want to draw your attention to is a couple of the longer term, bigger projects that we completed in 2023. So one of those projects that came to fruition this year was the install of a plaque alongside the rock Vicky Keith touched at the end of her record-breaking long-distance swim across Lake Ontario. This was installed in June at Richardson Beach. And the other interesting commemoration that was realized in 2023 is the Gerald Hunt Memorial Park, which opened on September 9th to commemorate the former CAO for the City of Kingston, Gerald Hunt, in honor of his significant contributions to the community through his 20 years of service to Kingston. Next slide, please. And so moving forward into 2024, we're going to be looking at the installation of heritage plaques on designated properties. We have quite the backlog of requests and have targeted this as a priority in 2024. So work has begun between the heritage planning and heritage programming teams. And moving forward, this will become business as usual. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Christine, do we take questions usually after briefings in this committee?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there's an unlimited number of questions allowed from committee members during a briefing or after.
Okay. Are there any questions for Melanie? From anyone? No? Okay. So now we'll move on to the next briefing, which is Miranda Riley, the curator, will present to speak to the committee regarding Your Stories, Our Histories project update report.
Thank you very much. And through you, Mr. Chair. So yes, we're talking about the Your Stories, Our Histories program. So this program and its Heritage Program Committee Report 24-002. And the goal of this project is to bring more diverse and inclusive installations into the City of Kingston City Hall National Historic Site. So can I get the next slide, please? Thank you. So just for a brief background, the Your Stories, Our Histories program, it began in 2018 as a way to tackle the history and the legacy of Sir John A. Macdonald, and has progressed to encourage people to think about how we tell Kingston stories and what stories we haven't been telling. So how we've done this is the Your Stories, Our Histories program has expanded to an application process that has been launched on the Get Involved platform, and it was launched on November 13th. And this application allows community members to submit applications for a community-driven niche case. And these niche cases will be on display in City Hall for about 8 to 12 months. There are five different niche cases around City Hall. Every year we're expecting at least one niche case to be available for community exhibitions. Some year it could be 2, some years could be 3, it just depends. So applicants will submit their application through the Get Involved platform, and it will go to our Heritage Services staff. Currently it's sitting with the curatorial team, so myself, and we will look over and review these applications and respond to applicants about receipt of application within 20 business days. At that point, we will kind of assess the applications that we have and see which cases we will move forward with for that calendar year. And niche cases will be on display for 8 to 12 months. So this program fits in with Council Priority 5.7, which is to foster culture, history, education, arts, and recreation, specifically Priority 5.7.1C. Could I get the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is just an example of what some of the cases we've done previously have looked at. These weren't necessarily connected with Your Stories, Our Histories program, but they were community driven. So the first one you can see there with the orange and the green and the white was from the India-Canada Association. The one sitting beside it was a local artist, Nan Yeomans. And then the third one was the formation of lacrosse in Kingston. So they're localized, they're very local to Kingston, and they were kind of our pilot of what we were working with for the niche cases. If you get the next slide, please. These were our current cases that we installed in 2023. So 3 of the 4 cases are Antiquities Through Modern Eyes, which is working with the Queen's University Collections and Conservation Program. So it's talking about classics and conservation and archaeology and how those things all kind of work together and what they teach at Queen's. And then the third one is entitled Strayed, Kingston's Wandering Cows, which is co-curated with Dr. Claudia Hertenfelder, and it is exploring kind of the role of cows in Kingston's community. Next slide, please. And then, so looking to 2024, will be our first Your Stories, Our Histories cases that have been launched through the application process. So currently we have lined up, we're going to be doing a case with the Pakistan Association of Canada, which will be focusing on Pakistan handicrafts. And then we'll be doing a 2S LGBTQIA plus case. This will be the first case in a series of cases that'll happen for the next few years, building up to a larger exhibition. And then probably about 2 of the other cases we'll be doing this year will be from the Your Stories, Our Histories program. So we're getting those applications in now. We've already gotten 6 and a bunch of them look really good. So we're in the process of assessing those and we'll be selecting who will be coming up next. In following years, we'll be working with other different groups within Kingston. So for example, next year, we're working with the Beth Israel congregation to celebrate their 115th anniversary. And then we'll be working with other different groups as well that submit through the Your Stories, Our Histories platform. And I believe that's it. I don't think there's a next slide after this, but we could check and see. Thank you. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Miranda. So committee members, is there any questions for Miranda? Oh, Paul?
Yes, I'm just wondering, thank you for those slides, especially showing the actual cases, but I'm just curious, what are the actual dimensions of those cases as to how much they can hold?
They're pretty small. They're not super large. I don't have the exact specifications right in front of me, but I can find it for you. They're fairly small. So object wise, we're going to recommend that people only put about 1 to 2 in there. And we'll be working with the applicants to kind of see what goes in the case. We try to keep it at a word count of around about 150 to 200 words, just because that's typically what we do for museum displays, because that's as much as people typically like to read. And so then it's a bit more accessible for people.
Right.
So they're not the largest cases in the world, but they're a decent enough size and they're at like a really good eye level. So any visitor coming in will be able to read the things that are in there. But if you'd like the specifications, I can grab those for you.
I'm just curious because I'm wondering what I think I mean, it's 3-dimensional is a lot of it that would be put in there, but are there also artifacts? I'm sorry, a lot of 2-dimensional in there, but I guess you could put some small artifacts in as well.
Yes. So all of the cases that we have in right now, they all currently have objects within them. So some of the Queen's Classics cases, like they've got some small objects in there. I think there's one case that has about 4 or 5 different things in there, but they're all small. So it just depends on what the community groups would like to put in there with
Sure,
it, just based on the size and whatnot. So we do have some flexibility, and there's a riser in the bottom that we can take out as well. So if things have a bit more height to them, we can do that as well.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Sherry, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I know where some of the niche cases are, but I was just wondering where these cases are located.
Sure. So yeah, there are 4 of them are on the first floor of City Hall. So if you walk into City Hall and turn left to go into the clerk's corridor, there's 3 of the cases that are there. So currently that's where the Queen's conservation ones are. And then if you enter through City Hall and go to your right into the payment center, there's one there as well. And then there's 2 more cases that are up on the 2nd floor, kind of right as soon as you go up the stairs to the second, like the proper side of 2nd floor.
Yeah.
There's one case right now that has a chain of office in it, and then another
Yeah.
one as well that will
Yeah.
be able to be flipped over.
Yeah, those were the 2 at the top of the stairs that I was most familiar with.
Yeah.
And how would people know to apply? Where has it been advertised?
So it's been advertised so far on the Get Involved platform. So it's gone out through kind of the Kingston Get Involved newsletter. I believe it's been posted on some social media accounts. We're working with the communications team just to see other spots that we can post it. And then I've also sent kind of the news release to different community groups within the local area as well. So they've been able to reach out to their networks as well to send it out.
Is there a list of where you sent it? Because I can think of a couple, but I don't know whether you've already sent something out.
I've sent some stuff out already, but if you have more contacts, I'm more than happy to send it out again. It's a rolling application process.
Sure.
So we can definitely keep sending it out.
Okay, so I can just reach out to you then?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Jeffrey, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's similar to what Sherry asked. Like I'm in and out of City Hall in the spring and the summer as a guide. So when you say niche cases, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is all sort of a glass case, right? Small glass case with items in. Okay. And the only ones like Sherry mentioned that I can think of is the mayor's one is chain of office and an explanation of how much it weighs and things. And then there's the Ukrainian. Do you class that as a niche exhibit?
Yes. So the Ukrainian one
so
is part of the niche. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the Ukrainian one, it is part of the niche cases. So that is one of the cases that will be being flipped over. So that'll be one of the ones that switches on an annual basis.
Okay, and so there's the 2 there. The mayor stays put, presumably. That's for now. So the other 4 cases are up for grabs. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and the other 4 cases, all I can remember is that there's some glass cases in the library, as it were, the resource center. There's some glass cases put out there with sort of an assortment of items. And from me, all I remember is the sort of things that have been dug up or people that have been handed in, like rocks from a certain era or a pair of spectacles or some items. Are those the other 3?
So no, the other 3, they're actually built into the wall. So whenever you're standing in the main center of City Hall, and if you go left into the clerk's corridor or right into the payment center, there's cases that are built into the wall there. So they're kind of inset into the wall, and they've got like a glass door on the front of them. And the background of them is blue.
Okay, so how do you class the ones that are sitting there in the Heritage Resource Center?
So those are just general display cases. So we don't have a plan to turn those over at this moment.
What you call niche cases.
No, the niche cases are like the little niche ones that are built into the walls.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, seeing no more questions, we're going to be moving on to business. Now, Christine is not being familiar with this committee. What's the process here? I just name it, and then is there another presentation, or is we just vote on on the report?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I believe that Melanie and Miranda could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they have finished presenting the reports through their briefing and answering any questions. If committee members did have any additional questions, they could at this time, once you state the business items. And these are both information reports, so there won't be any votes required.
Okay. Do we allow questions from the public? I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, so we could allow questions from the public after committee members have answered any questions they have, but I will note that we don't have any members of the public in attendance at this time.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to business A, which is update Kingston commemoration policy, new project requests, works in progress and works complete in 2023. Do we have any discussion about this report? Any questions? No? Okay, so we'll move on to the next one, which is B, your stories, our histories, project update. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing as none, and there's still nobody in the gallery. No.
Just a point. I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Oh, yes.
Point?
Yeah.
Well, this is related to the issue, but it was in the last, this is what I was trying to raise earlier. It's in, and it relates to this program. And I couldn't speak apparently, so that I noticed that the same program is being talked about now. Can I bring it up now? Hello?
Ian, do you know if this is the appropriate time, or is it?
Yes, he can. Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yep, that you can talk about it at this point because it's related to the to a similar report.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the last minutes, I noticed that on page 4, there's a mention. There's a question for Kevin. Actually, is Kevin around? Oh, very good. Hi, Kevin. Anyway, in that, Kevin mentioned that the heritage tour, which is really presentations on heritage that went on, he mentioned the one, the last one was supposed to be the 38 questions to fall in love with Kingston. Did that go ahead?
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, yes, the 36 questions to fall in love with Kingston exhibit is still currently in the Market Wing Cultural Space at the back of City Hall, and it's open until about March of 2024.
I'm sorry. I thought that you were I get mixed up in this terminology. I thought you were talking about the presentations that you made during the year, like the one on architecture. And it was an hour long or something. So there was a presentation there. Oh, okay, that went
yes.
on. Okay, that's fine. Did you have a large attendance? Or?
Yeah, and thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, that did happen a few weeks ago. The attendance was not great, but there were some people that did attend, and there was some interest in that presentation. And I will note that we're having another of that series of meetings tomorrow, actually at noon. So that one will be on the Rockwood institution.
Where do you do the promotion? Like I get stuff from City Hall. I didn't see any promotion of this, so that's why I missed it. Otherwise I would have been there. Where is it promoted, please?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Mostly it is promoted on social media and email and newsletters that are put out through the city. We're certainly happy to get your name and contact information for anybody who hasn't received those communications, and we can add you to the list. We're happy to get as many people as possible.
Okay. I'd like to do a survey. Did anybody in this committee hear about that particular presentation? Anybody? Nobody heard about it.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
sorry,
doesn't that tell us something?
Actually, I had seen the information about the presentation tomorrow. It was something that I was interested in because the history of that site is very interesting to me. So actually, I didn't.
You didn't see it.
I did see it.
Oh, you did. I
I-
apologize.
I
I
saw it
apologize.
advertised.
Okay. I don't want to keep this going too long, but in the last minutes, you mentioned that you were collecting information on the museums, including that I presume this is public opinions on the activities of the museums. And you said you would discuss responses at this meeting. Is that correct? Public responses to the museum
Thank you.
on
And through
activities
you,
at the museum.
we are, through you, Mr. Chair, we are still collecting information. We do collect a lot of information about the museums. And I may also have been referring to the City of Kingston Heritage Fund at that time. And that's a process that has been delayed a little bit just in terms of staffing issues. But we have an ongoing process of trying to collect information. And I can certainly review those notes and get back to you. But at this particular meeting, no, I will not be presenting updates
Okay.
on the museums
No,
themselves.
well, just to say, it says that they're still collecting information. This is 5 months ago, and we'll hopefully be prepared to discuss survey responses in the next meeting. So you're saying that you've been snowed under and you won't be presenting. That is right, Kevin?
Thank you. And through you, that it is correct that I will not be presenting any results of that
Okay.
engagement at this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's it. I'm finished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul, you have a question?
Yes, actually, well, first of all, just to say thank you, Jeffrey. You took the question right out of my mouth, almost word for word. But to follow up on that, I'm wondering, Kevin, would it be possible to have this item placed, or Mr. Chair, on the agenda for the next meeting of this committee, whenever that may be?
Kevin, or whoever has an answer?
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Happy to do so.
All right, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Nope. Okay, so moving on. Motions. Oh, Jean, did you have a question?
Just a few comments, if I may.
Of course.
It's very interesting to find out that, yes, you want some information about the museum. I find that the dissemination of information, like warning the committee member, I was not the only one who never heard about the presentation of tomorrow. Finding out no, let me step back 1 minute here. I've been involved with McLaughlin Woodworking Museum for 20 years. I was part of the original board of the museum, and I was curator for 20 years. This being said, I was appalled at finding out that the museum was closed. And I've been trying for the last 4 months to visit the museum, but there were always reasons for not doing it. And I think that if you want information on your museum, I visited the pump house, and I also visited town hall and looked at everything. It's nice to know what we're talking about, I think. But anyway, my point is that more information towards us as a committee would be really nice. I find that we should all be put on the distribution lists for such things as presentations and so on. Like I found out there was an activity at McLaughlin last week, and that there's one at Pump next week, by really chasing people around to get information. This being said, I would humbly ask to get more information. I would also, yeah, for now, I will leave it at that. I have another question, and that's regarding insurance. Because I was told I could not visit McLaughlin because there was construction in there and there was no insurance. And my question goes to the people in charge here, sort of. Is that mean that when we are doing work for Kingston and their committee, we are not covered by the city insurance? When we worked at McLaughlin, like we literally built the new building with hammer in hand and so on, we were covered by city insurance. And I want to know if now we are hanging we will never be asked to move away from the comfortable chairs of our living room, and therefore we will never be on site for city, that sort of thing. I'm a bit at a loss with all of that. Sorry if I'm not exactly clear.
Okay, thank you. I guess this should have probably been in other business, but I know maybe we can get an
Well,
answer.
I can bring it back later if you want, but this is really bugging me.
Yeah. Do we have an answer for any of these?
Thank
Okay.
you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, Kevin, did you want to go ahead with this one?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. John, we did talk yesterday, and I
Yep.
did let you know just that we had the event going on at Winterlight on the 25th of November, and the same staff that work at McLaughlin do work at Pump House, and I'm more than happy to meet you at McLaughlin in mid-January. We did talk about. Right now, everything is covered, like I said, and it's just a liability to have anyone in there right now walking when there's things on the floor, just so out of abundance of caution and safety. I just wanted to make sure that that's what we are going ahead and doing. Is I'm happy to meet you in January for it. As far as
But that's my
insurance
question
goes,
about that doesn't answer my question about insurance. I'm happy with what we discussed yesterday. I'm not happy, but I'll accept it.
okay. So as I was saying about insurance, I'm not in legal. That would have to be an insurance question. I'm sure Christine can help us find somebody to get an answer.
Can you find an answer? Because it is kind of important.
Yeah, and maybe you can email the committee if you find.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I will connect with the correct people in legal and communicate with the committee regarding that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's no motion, no notices of motion. Does anybody have any other business that they'd like to bring up? Seeing as none, there's no correspondence, and the next meeting is for the Kingston Heritage Programs Committee is to be determined. I'm assuming that there's no date set yet. No. Okay. So I guess moving on is adjournment. Do you have a question, Jeff?
w-
Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Jeff.
One small bit of business, which I'd like to just warn the committee about, if it's appropriate.
Okay.
Okay?
Go ahead.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add an item after yours.
Okay, so we'll go back to other business. We'll bring back other business, seeing that there's questions. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, just that I am in possession of an important antique plane collection for woodworking, which I would like to donate to the museum, to McLaughlin. And we'll go through the the regular channel, you know, I guess it is through Melanie and maybe Christine, or I'm not sure anymore what it is, but I'll make a presentation to them about that collection and its importance. And of course, it will come to this committee sooner or later for approval. I just want to tell that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeffrey, did you have a?
Yeah, it's just a point of procedure. How does one, we're all, excuse me, excuse me. Just have a glass of water. Wait, excuse me. Yeah, I just wondered, bearing in mind that this is all done on Zoom, we don't have any opportunity to talk to each other about activities related to the committee. So we have no option. How are we supposed to communicate with our fellow members if we don't have any if we don't have the meeting in person?
Yeah, Ian?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I'll step in here for Christine because I've had a couple other committees bring up this kind of topic of conversation, so I can hopefully provide some insight here. When we send out the agendas, we do include everybody's emails, and so you are free to individually email each other about interests or topics. And if the committee so wishes, we can have a conversation about moving the meetings to in person at City Hall. So that is an option available to the committee. We would have to have a quick conversation within our own office to make sure that the rooms would be available and what time the committee would meet and so forth, especially for opening up City Hall for the public at that time. So that would be a little bit of a separate conversation. But members of the committee are more than welcome to contact each other individually to discuss items of business. They just cannot contact each other in large groups. So mass email the committee with a matter of business, for example, outside of a public meeting.
Are we, and also as members of this committee, are we allowed to make motions at these meetings?
So through you, Mr. Chair, if you would wish to place a motion on the agenda that is within the mandate of the committee, you would have to submit it in writing to the committee clerk before the agenda is issued so that it can end up under the motion section or the notices of motion section, depending on which route you're working to go through. And that way we can also help you make sure that the thing is structured properly.
Okay, thanks very much.
No problem.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from anyone? Is none. Okay, so we'll move to adjournment. Can I have a mover? Sherry, and seconded by Laura. All in favor?